case of spinal cord injury, Kim's ideas are all excellent, and those are good ways to reach people. Just to give you an idea of the difficulty of reaching people with spinal cord injury, I don't know if Simon could talk to this about stroke or not. I don't know if there's maybe one or two states out of 50 that actually have a registry of the names of the people who have spinal cord injury in the states. California does not have such a registry, and so there's always been a controversy in the spinal cord injury field for as far as I can remember about the actual number of people that have the affliction. So we think it's about 250,000, but since there's no way of really counting them, there's no way of really knowing. So this is one of the challenges right there. So.
Often when you're asked how many, we usually use the statistics 250 to 400,000. And that's a pretty broad range for a statistic. And with diabetes, cancer, things like that, you know the number. Spinal cord injury, you really don't.
Actually, just before I pass the mic on to you, sir, the other thing I would just add to that is that stroke specifically is often referred to as the silent epidemic, because I think a head injury happens in America every 2 seconds. And what happens is you either get pushed out of the hospital with a cane or a walker, but the other element at play is that you don't want to disclose, I've been through this very much myself, you don't want to disclose your limitations, you don't want to just lose your access to insurance, perhaps lose your job. It's all of those elements, so you tend to not talk about it very much. So there's a very large silent number.
I'd like to also add, getting involved in studies. I kind of do a lot of studies, and that's how I get my knowledge. I go to different studies where they use me as their guinea pig or whatever, and I find out information there. They give me their packet, and they give me their booklet and a CD or whatever, and I get to learn from it before I actually go. And then when I do go, I'm a part of the study, I learn from that, and I pass on the information to others.
Interesting, but one of the things we talked about, you touched on, and I think it would be interesting for this group, is talking about the size of the market. And I know we've talked about, particularly with investors that are within the group, of, when you look at creating a device, how do you size the market in terms of going to investors? And that's an interesting challenge in terms of how do you say how many people with stroke that are actually are out there that are available to potentially be consumers of your product. So I find that extremely interesting.
As Kim said earlier, if anybody in the audience can develop a hand stimulator that could allow us to use that, approximately 50% of the patients with spinal cord injury are quadriplegic. So there's a market of 125,000 people that would pay quite a bit of money to have to regain use of their hands.
And that would also be applicable to stroke population as well.
Yeah,
brain injury, possibly.
Yeah, I was going to say that I'm no expert in this particular aspect because I got use back of my hands more or less. But the device I've just shown you for my leg is called the L300, the Bioness leg. L stands for leg. And apparently, I know they also have an H200, which H stands for hand. So the hand device, I know is designed, it wraps around, I've seen it wraps around below the elbow. And I know it is intended for certain applications to restore hand function or enable hand function. So I'll mention that as, again, no one tells you these things, so hopefully that's helpful information.
Maura might be able to speak to this better. There's a wonderful annual conference that's held at UC Irvine where it's called Meet the Scientists, and Maura puts us on and does a great job of this every year. But at the last meeting, I remember a multidisciplinary project that was attempted to be put together with a number of different departments to try and develop a hand stimulator at UC Irvine. Did they ever get funded for that?
Yeah, they have DARPA funding, so this is Department of Defense funding. It's to develop a prosthetic hand for primarily amputation. Leg prostheses are not so bad. Hand prostheses right now are really not spectacular. Some of the research that's going on there has to do with the creating muscles, micromuscles, and also creating artificial skin using microfluidic technology so that you can, you have two different kinds of touch. And this microfluidic system in the skin, or the plastic skin, can allow you to have both of those kinds of touch. So that is under development right now, and where it is exactly, we're not quite sure. I've got a meeting with them next week, next week actually, to get an update on that. But there is technology going forward. Unfortunately, the war in Iraq is forcing the country to spend money. Well, it's good that they're spending the money, but people are coming home with missing limbs, with spinal cord injuries, and so more money is being put into research in those areas. And certainly that particular component of it is something that fits right in with the Neurotech device community.
Excellent. Well, thanks. I think in interest of time, I'd like to, oh, I'm sorry, is there a question?
One source that you didn't mention is in Canada, occupational therapists are a very good source to go to for accessibility technologies. And I don't know if you have occupational therapists in the US.
We do. That's hitting right on occupational therapists, or those frontline clinicians that work directly with the consumer. So that, again, that's trying to get to that frontline clinician.
There's actually one other thing I just learned a few months ago through another activity I'm involved in, is that the Orange County Goodwill Industries actually has an assistive technology center where people can come in with any kind of disability, and they'll teach them and help them make or get assistive technology. And that might be another type of source of information where Neurotech products could be provide information into those different Goodwill facilities, because I'm sure Orange County is not the only one that has assistive technology, but that's another option.
I think we should add one thing. As this panel is very much the patient perspective, let me just add one comment though to what you're saying. It's true that the physical therapists are the front line, that's absolutely true. But the reality to a patient who's facing neurological injury, the time frame for recovery or rehabilitation from neurological injuries is far greater than the time frame that most physical therapists are afforded to treat the patient. Very often now, certainly in the US, I don't know how it is in Canada, but when even you go in for conventional surgery, you'll be discharged home before the physical therapist even sees you. You're gone. Their physical therapy sessions only last 40 minutes, so the great breakthrough potentially within these neurological devices is they share one wonderful attribute, which is essentially it's a physical therapy program that you as the patient take home with you. When I said earlier I got more targeted functional stimulation in the 30 days of conditioning with this device I'm wearing than in the previous 12 years combined, the fact is that this empowers the patient to bring the therapy home with them and use it long term. In my case, I may use this device for the rest of my life. That's fine by me. But I just wanted to add that because the physical therapist can only do what they can do within the time that they're afforded to do it for you.